The majority of people who start training jiu-jitsu are going to end up quitting before they reach black belt. This is for a number of reasons, mostly because jiu-jitsu is hard and it takes a really long time to become a black belt. But I want to talk about some of the great filters of jiu-jitsu and why you are most likely going to quit before you reach 6 months in jiu-jitsu. This is the very first time I'm talking about this, so we'll talk about the very first great filter, the one you'll encounter in your first 6 to 9 months, depending on how frequently you train. If you don't want to watch the entire video and hear me elaborate, here is the too long did not read version. Essentially, when you first join jiu-jitsu, you have to learn how to use your body in a way that you have never used it before. You have to learn to connect your upper body with your lower body. You have to learn how to use your feet almost as if they were hands. You have to learn how to roll. You have to learn how to move in different weird and strange ways. On top of that, you have to learn a bunch of different moves and how they tie into each other. Before you do this, you're sort of left wandering and you're often quite confused. So when people first join in their first 2-3 weeks, maybe a month or so, it's brand new to them and it's super fun because it's this new activity. They get this exercise and they don't really have any expectations and it's new and they're like, okay, cool, I'm eventually going to learn this. And that newness feeling, that feeling of being in an activity that you haven't done before sort of wears off around the 2-month-ish. If it lasts 2 months, that's kind of a long time. It sort of wears off around the 3-week to 2-month range. After that, though, you're not going to have learned everything you need to learn in order to have things start to click for you in jiu-jitsu. It's probably going to take about 6 months for this to happen, and that's just because there's a lot of things you have to learn. There are a lot of things that tie into each other. You have to understand how to transition from all of the major positions. You have to have a different move from each one of those positions. And oftentimes when you come into practice and you drill, you'll go and you'll practice the moves and then you'll try to hit it on a partner. And it's like you have no idea, like it's completely different. Like, yeah, it sort of worked while you were practicing, but during live resistance, it's like these moves are completely different. It's like trying to play a game and then suddenly the controls don't work the way they were working before, and it's really frustrating. And this is a really difficult filter because, maximum 2 months in, the newness feeling wears off. Well, let's say you're only training 2 to 3 times a week, hopefully 3, maybe 4, but usually 2 or 3. It's still going to take not 6, 7, 8 months for you to start to click, for it to start to be like, okay, out of every single position, I see what's happening there. Okay, I'm being swept in this position, or my posture is being broken, or I can actually sweep somebody in this position. You start to understand how they tie into each other, and when you're rolling, that makes it much more easy to be able to get the moves and the attacks that you've been practicing in class. Because there's such a huge gap between that newness feeling, that excitement, and when it wears off, and then when things finally start to click, this is where most white belts are going to end up quitting and thinking jiu-jitsu isn't for them. And this is just because they are showing up and it's really difficult and it's really hard and they're trying to train and it's awesome, but it feels so demotivating because 5 months in, it's like, man, you've been doing this thing for a long time, but it still feels like you have no idea what's going on. It still feels like every time you roll with the upper belts, it's like you can't make any of your moves work. And then on top of this, if someone new off the street comes in and they're maybe stronger than you, or maybe they've wrestled for a little bit, they'll come in and with 2-3 weeks of experience, they're probably making some of the blue belts work hard. They're probably tapping you out, and that's super demotivating, especially if you've never done anything before. However, one thing I gotta say is the light at the end of the tunnel is pretty darn quick. You should really try to focus on taking enjoyment out of your classes because it's a good workout and there's camaraderie. And even if you're being a little frustrated with how your moves are not coming together or the fact that you feel like you can't learn, there's a lot of other awesome things that come with jiu-jitsu that you can enjoy for this, first 6 months. You can make new friends, you can talk to people, you're still getting better and you're still practicing. It's just a little demotivating when you're not able to work your offense and really try to use the attacks you've been drilling in class. The quickest way to speed up past this filter because it becomes a lot more fun once you get past this, because then you can really start to make other people defend your attacks, and it becomes a lot more of a game than a one-sided defense, beatdown essentially. If you have a move out of every single position, I would suggest 2 moves out of every single position, but 1 is good enough. And, you know, when you find yourself in that position, whether it's closed guard, whether it's side control, whether it's mount, whether it's open guard, whether it's the back, whether it's knee on belly, whether it's standing, you should have at least two, maybe three, but one is okay, moves. And the reason why you want to have two is so you can switch back and forth. You can try move one, then you can try move two, then you can try back move one again, then you can try move two. And if you always have a different move or escape to work from, then you won't feel as lost, and you'll really start to see the connections between the different moves, and it's going to start to expand. For me personally, I remember not specifically the day, but about the time when this started to happen for me. I was training more than 3 days a week. I was training like 4 or 5 days a week pretty consistently, and I'd been doing it for about 5 months. And I just kind of looked around and I was like, oh, okay, like the newer white belts who come in off the street, like I can kind of put them in a position and I can kind of get my cross choke, or I can kind of work my sweeps, or I can take their back because they're rolling a weird way. And some of the people who used to be beating me but weren't showing up very frequently, I started to realize that, oh, I almost swept you. Like, you know, this move that I've been practicing, it might actually start to work. And it was really awesome when that started happening, because it was like I just keep showing up and I keep getting smashed. I just keep showing up, I keep getting smashed, showing up, getting smashed. And nothing really changed from day to day. However, I was accumulating skill the entire time, and it was building on itself. It was compounding. So one day I look around and all this knowledge that I had been working for was starting to click. It was like, okay, out of every single position, I sort of know what to do. I sort of have a move from every single position. And I was having a lot more fun, because if I got paired up with like someone who was my weight, who was a little bit newer, there was a good chance I would tap him out, and that was a lot of fun. You know, of course, if I got paired up with someone who was more experienced, I would just get, you know, submitted again and again, or, you know, they would maybe let me work my stuff, and, you know, I could try to get some submissions. But for the most part, it's not really, it almost does feel like one day you look around and, oh crap, I'm better than everybody. Well, not better than everybody, but I'm way better than I thought I was, and I'm sort of understanding this. It makes a lot more sense to me. It's not so confusing. Like, it's not every single time coach shows a move, it's like, oh, what's this? It's like, oh, okay, I've seen the mount position. I understand the escapes from here. I understand, oh, okay, in this other position, this is the grips I get. Oh, it sort of relates to each other. And it was a lot of fun, and, you know, honestly, making it past that hurdle is probably the biggest one in jiu-jitsu, because it's the first one, you know, and that's what separates people who know how to put in hard work. They know how to practice long enough to get good at something, from the people who just straight up can't do that. And to be honest, the majority of people just straight up can't do that. It's a lot of suck for a maybe reward at the end of the day, but I promise you, if you keep training, if you keep showing up, you will have the moment where it sort of clicks together. If this video can reach, I don't know, 10 likes, I'll make another one about the next great filter in jiu-jitsu. I think that's all I have to say for this video. If you made it to the end, I appreciate you sticking around. Doing all YouTube stuff down below, like, comment, subscribe, boosts me in the algorithms, and helps a ton. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day. Peace.